Hi folks, Mark Allen here for BH Spring Solutions. Welcome to part 2 of just some preview of the new book, Before It's Too Late, Get Your Defensive House in Order. And this is a book that, with the help of my father, my partner, BH Spring Solutions, completed in 2017, and we've had great reviews from many of our friends who have got the book and have started implementing some of the concepts and the fundamentals. And I want to tell you some of the benefits that guys are getting, and just give you a brief overview of this book. It's going to be delivered to you by email download. You can print it out. You can print out parts of it if you want to. The book came out to about 102 pages and 36 chapters, and there's a new chapter in there. There's been a revision this year, adding a chapter on the usage of tactical light as an advantage with this kind of a setup that starts to become very reflexive. We have this system at bhspringsolutions.com. In fact, everything that you're going to see at our new division called BH Defense is all consistent with the concepts and the fundamentals and the mindsets that you're going to see in the book. The book references my father. He's 78 years old this year. He's a Marine, and he is what raised me, and a great many of the fundamentals and the mindsets that he has are things that my partner Slav Baruchiev and I moved forward with BH Spring Solutions based on in the very beginning when we started the company. Some of the things that you're going to read about in this book are preparing for the most likely threats. Now, I started writing this book actually for one reason, but after I got deep into the statistics and started discovering some statistics that are just not common knowledge, not talked about in the media for one reason or another. Certainly, it would seem to be ignored by the two political football players regarding the whole gun debate issue. What we started finding was, here's one example. We found it is about 900 times more likely that today you as an American will have a firearm stolen from you or lose one in a gun grab than it is likely that you will ever use one to defend anyone or anything with. And that statistic just blew me away. And needless to say, it took some aspects of this book in a completely different direction, but how can you possibly ignore those kinds of statistics? In other words, to not prepare for theft, to not prepare for the potential eventuality that you may lose your firearm in a gun grab situation. And I don't know about you, but there are two sources of fear for me in this world that really, really bother me. And I'm going to go to a level of honesty here. Those two things for me are, I fear not being, I fear being in an environment where I am not at the top of the food chain. The idea of being lunch for something bigger than me, that really bothers me. The idea of looking down the end of one of my gun barrels and that being the last thing I ever see. Or looking down the end of one of my gun barrels and it being someone else's decision whether or not I live to pick someone out of a police lineup later. That idea really bothers me. And when I started discovering that it's hundreds and hundreds, almost 1,000 times more likely that I could face that scenario than it is that I will ever actually stop a threat with a firearm, that was a wake-up for me, because at that point, to not prepare for that eventuality in advance, in other words, having a backup plan, We hear this called a backup gun, a different bug, things like this. But we talk about a backup plan, and that is not only a backup weapon, but an entire plan that prepares for that eventuality. And you must prepare for it. I must prepare for it. We all must prepare for it, because none of us have eyes 360 degrees around our head. And we know that most situations where there is an attack, and when we start talking about defense, that implies an attack, and it implies an attack that we have decided that we will stop. That's an affirmative decision to defend. And so there must be a plan for that eventuality where you don't see it coming, where there's 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 of them that get you from behind. And you know as well as I do, the first 2 things that are going to go away are going to be your wallet and your primary sidearm if you're carrying one. And at that moment, you need a backup plan. I need a backup plan. We go in depth in this book talking about preparing for the worst case scenarios and the most likely, statistically most likely scenarios. What we've seen is that with a lot of defensive training, these elements are somewhat ignored or not stressed, and the most likely threats we believe need to be addressed, prepared for, drilled for first. Another one that is tenacious today, the profile of the multiple perpetrator home invasion. And these people are militaristic. They have seriously advanced in their strategies, in their tactics, and quite frankly, their strategies and their tactics are working almost every time. The criminal element today that we would need to defend ourselves from is more well armed and more sophisticated, and are doing things differently than we've seen 10 and 20 and 30 years ago. One profile that is insidious, where a woman comes to the door, knocks on the door, and of course, what do 99% of all people do? They see a woman at the door, they open the door. They open the door, and her 3 or 4 or 6 goons come around the corner and gang rush the door, and the whole situation is under their control just that quickly. Doors crash in every day, followed by a line of armed invaders who expect to control that environment virtually immediately, because they know they have the element of surprise on their side. That is the profile of a type of crime that is becoming more and more prominent today, and the reason it is because it works. The ability to respond to that kind of a threat, or any kind of a threat, and to respond right now, that is one of the things we go into deep in this book. My father, Pops, we use him as a reference point. As a Marine and as a person who owned firearms starting when he was 12, hunting rabbits, this man became extremely proficient, extremely good with his deployment and use of firearms fast. And that is part of the basis for everything that the rest of the book is written about. And we continue focusing throughout the book on the ability to respond right now, and with extreme effectiveness in terms of defending an attack. And what this is really about finding places in your own mindset, finding places in your own defensive plan where maybe these elements are not yet optimized, maybe there's room for growth, maybe there's room for you to advance in these areas, And that's what this book is going to help you to do. One of the features of this book that we put in here, about 10 years ago, I decided to undertake some skill development in myself. After I started reading a lot of data, a lot of things about personal defense, and the need to sometimes deploy your tools reflexively, right now, and with maximum effectiveness, I started training myself and looking for ways and drills and things that would help my skill level advance, and to do it quickly. And one of the things that are included in the book are printable shooting charts. These are going to save you way more than the cost of the book. You can print these out at home. You can print them out on cardboard paper or regular plain old copy paper, and you can use these for your drills. We've developed a 25 round ammunition practice session. It's structured, it's regimented, and it's intended to get you more reflexive, to get you faster as quickly as possible. And these are the exact drills that I refined and rehoned and used myself and friends and family have used, and these drills work. And one of the important things is that it takes a minimum amount of ammunition. An entire practice session, which will be quite intense, will use up only 25 rounds of ammunition. So one of the requirements for me was it needs to be efficient, it needs to be not expensive, in terms of I don't want to be shooting up thousands of rounds of ammunition just to get my skills to a level where I can have more confidence and more know that I'm prepared. So just to give you an example, the shooting drills that are all detailed in the book start with what we call a warm-up session. It's called the 5-shot dot drill. On each one of these shooting targets, it reminds you what's this about, how do you do the drill, and gives you instructions right there on the sheet. It's followed by the 5-5-5-5 drill, which means 5 shots into a 5-inch circle at 5 yards in under 5 seconds. And that's the goal for this drill. You do this twice, and then it moves, and we finish with 2 more 5-shot drills to total the 25, and we have a center mass and an upper silhouette target, and also instructions. The instructions are for a certain number of shots in the center mass and a certain number of shots in the upper target, and that is to get you reflexive on moving on targets while at the same time shooting quickly. These are designed to be, other than the 5-shot dot drill, which is a warm-up, the other 20 rounds in your practice sessions are all designed to be timed drills. And the requirement to deliver a certain number of shots into a defined area within a designated amount of time, and you get additional points for better time. You get points deducted if you surpass the time. The idea here is to add a degree of stress to your practice. And adding a degree of stress to your practice makes it more lifelike, makes it more real life for your body. In other words, you're going to be surprised. You're going to feel adrenaline when you know that someone is getting ready to, and when you don't, example, you don't know it's coming, you have a partner, stopwatch, you don't know when they're going to say go, and then all of a sudden they say go, they start the watch, now it's your time, you've got to perform. What you're going to feel is you're going to feel some adrenaline happening. You're going to feel some stress happening. I got to get this done. And that is what we really are wanting to have happen. We want the adrenaline to be not a stranger. We want the need to operate and deploy and deliver shots, good hits, effectively, fast. We want that to all come together that way, and especially with the elements of adrenaline, with some elements of stress in the picture. This is not the sanitary at the shooting range where everything is regimented and you stand in this 2-foot or 3-foot confined little area and you empty your magazine and you tear up some paper and you take them home, and that all has a place. and there is a time for it, and there is a lot of importance for that kind of practice. Unfortunately, that practice is also practicing shooting standing still. And there are no defensive scenarios where shooting standing still really makes sense. We teach you become a reflexively moving target. In other words, when you deploy, that automatically means the feet are moving. In other words, you don't make yourself a stationary target. If you are needing to stop an attack, you don't make yourself an easy hit. So all of that is covered in the book. We're excited to share it with you. We're excited to make it available to you, and we want you to have the benefits of it. bhspringsolutions.com, click on ebook. After you go through checkout, it's going to automatically be sent to you into your email. You can download it, you can be reading it today, you can print the shooting charts out, and you can be doing effective drill practice this afternoon. I'm Mark Allen for BH Springs Solutions. Thanks for listening.